Hey everybody, Travis Hightower here, your Denver real estate agent. Today I wanted to use a real life example where we've used divergent thinking to create a must-have list. And that's today's topic, is creating a powerful, purposeful must-have list to create clarity in your home search. That's really what it's all about, because the way that the market's been, there's been a lot of pressure in the marketplace to find houses, go look at things quickly, make offers quickly. And with all of that pressure, it's led to decisions that may not have been the best along the way. Looking forward, we want to change that, right? We want to create clarity with buyers where when they walk into a house, they know exactly what they're looking for and they can check that list off in their mind and decide if it's a fit for them and their vision for their life. And so that must-have list creates a ton of clarity. And how we do that is, we talked about it before, create a meaningful conversation with the people most important to you. Use the perfect home exercise with divergent thinking, which we discussed last week. And from that space, create columns and themes that you select. And then those columns and themes become the top 3 items on your must-have list. Number 1 would be your non-negotiable, something that you absolutely would not compromise on at all. In most cases, you can determine that just by looking online and looking at a house and saying, you know what, that doesn't fit what I'm looking for, cut it off the list and move on. The second 2 items, sometimes they can interchange between 2 and 3, but they're things that you want to have top of mind when you're walking into a property that you want to test. And I'll give you some examples on what that looks like a little bit later when we talk about this actual perfect home exercise I did with a client. And by having the must-have list created, you can go out in the marketplace, test, and make sure that that's what you want. And that clarity allows you to take action and make decisions quickly if the opportunity arises. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today, and then take a little bit deeper dive into what this looked like with a client and give you some real life examples so you can understand what that meaningful conversation looks like, and then how that turns into a divergent thinking perfect home process. The columns and themes emerge, and then from that space we're able to determine what the top 3 list of a must-have list would be. And so what I did with this client is I asked the question that I typically ask, is what makes this the perfect home today, and why do I absolutely love it? And this question was posed after talking for probably about 30 minutes about past rental experiences, the house that we had recently sold. We did some remodel work on that house. I talked about the design that we put into that and the style that emerged through that process of working with them to fix up the house and sell it for top dollar. We reflected on when I helped this client purchase that house back in 2014, and even look beyond that to times in her life when she had rented over at Alexa in Inglewood off of Santa Fe. We even looked back into times when she was first out of college and living in Steamboat, and talked about houses and places that she lived in at that point in time. And what we discovered is, we discovered many things. We discovered that the house that she had recently sold, the single family house that it was, she had compromised on it a bit back when they purchased it, but it fit the couple that they were at the time. And so by digging through that, we were able to determine that a single family house wasn't a good fit for her. The finishes that we put into that house were okay, but they didn't really speak to her fully. And what we learned is that location was important. We had a good idea on what upgrades look like, but location was important, having everything in a layout, in a floor plan, having a floor plan that flowed. All of those things kind of emerged through that conversation, but we hadn't put it on paper yet. And when we used the divergent thinking process, the perfect home exercise, we were able to discover that rapidly in 4 minutes. When we both put ourselves on the clock, I posed the question and we rapidly threw out all of these ideas in that time frame. Hers were here in green, mine are here in the yellow, and we basically just took from the experiences that we shared together and rapidly came up with a bunch of ideas. Once that clock expired, we started aligning those ideas, and you can see this theme right here has to do with, like updates on the interior, washer, dryer, gas stove, mostly hardwood. I put updates, colors and style, value add, not a ton, a lot of different things there. This one emerged where we talked about floor plan and layout. And this was tall ceilings, light and bright, big windows, light, top floor, possibly closet space, elevator, kitchen to cook, parking, easy parking, not a pain. Those were all things that emerged that kind of fell into that column that we put together. And of all of the conversations we had, the one that really resonated with her the most and excited her the most to take action on the rental that she recently committed to was location. And that came through the form of her saying location, central to places to eat, convenient, proximity to amazing places to do stuff, grocery store nearby, park close by, walkable, public transportation, square footage balanced with location that really speaks to you. Those were all things that emerged in this column here. And then the last one was just things about like amenities and unique to her and maintenance free and all of those types of things. But really this allowed us to connect through that 30-minute conversation. And then we were able to quickly come up with ideas in 4 minutes, start aligning those ideas and then creating a top 3, a must-have list for that clarity that we were looking for through this exercise. And what that first one was, the non-negotiable, was location. The second one that we thought emerged was flow and floor plan, which you can see here, tall ceilings, light and bright, big windows, light, all of those things, closet space, elevator. And the third one we felt was upgrades and finishes. This wasn't fully clear when we had met and gone through this process, but it felt like she wanted something nice, but we weren't sure what that looked like, whether it was top of the line current style and finishes or going back maybe to like mid 2000s and testing what that looked like all the way back to maybe 2001, some timeline around that. It was clear through that discussion that anything from the 90s and older just wasn't a fit. And so through this process, we created a top 3 list and we started looking at houses, properties online. We actually looked through the ones that she had already favorited up until that moment that we had met. And we started crossing off ones that didn't fit the profiles here. And we started drilling in on the ones that really did. And that set up our first day out looking. And that first day out looking, we had a ton of clarity because we could walk in, and if that layout wasn't what she wanted, we literally walked in, we talked about why it wasn't a fit so we could communicate that. I took notes about what I was seeing, what she was seeing, and then we moved on to the next one. That very first day, we looked at an amazing unit, had everything that she wanted, and we just needed to continue to test what that looked like beyond. And we looked at a 2-1 that had very nice finishes, but it didn't have the windows. We looked at some other stuff in the Capitol Hill area, excuse me, and we really could not let the first one we ever looked at leave our mind. It just had everything from layout, upgrades, flow, all of it. And that's something we really drilled down on, ran numbers and had a follow-up conversation around. But my point in sharing that is that by following a process like this, it might seem simple, but that simplicity gives you that clarity to be able to walk in and say yes or no, or exclude that property before even looking at it. And I think that clarity creates purpose for you, and you're connecting to your true desires, what you want from your heart. You've shared that with me or shared that with others around experiences that you've already had, places that you rented, places that you sold, times in your life when you moved away from home or lived with roommates for the first time, and you started to discover what it was that truly inspired you and motivated you and excited you. And by having that in front of us that we've created together, now we're able to do this, go into the market, have that clarity and purpose, and know what speaks to you and what doesn't. And so I wanted to share what that meant to me and how it worked for the many clients that I've done this process with, and give you a real life example so you could see how this takes shape and form over the last 3 weeks of learning what this looks like. And so next week, I wanted to share with you why I like to use this process, how important it is for me to be able to connect with you as a client. And then that way you can see the value I can bring, like through these yellow sticky notes here, and how that combines with the things that you're looking for, the things that resonate the most with you. And so next week, I'm going to share what that looks like for me and how that allows us to connect, and then you can choose to work with me as your real estate agent. And I think at the end of the day, when we're looking for real estate, we want to find a local, we want to find someone that knows what they're doing and understands who we are so they can deliver the value that we seek. and that's what I intend to do. So have an amazing day. Thanks for tuning in for the last 3-4 weeks. I appreciate you. Look forward to connecting soon. Bye-bye.